Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel, and today I am so excited to finally get on here and talk about Weapons, the sophomore feature from writer-director Zach Cregger, starring Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, Austin Abrams, Carrie Christopher, Benedict Wong, and Amy Madigan. And this basically follows this town in which 17 kids from Justine, a third grade teacher's classroom played by Julia Garner, mysteriously disappear into the night, where you get camera footage of them running out of their house with their arms stretched out wide, and a lot of people start wondering what is going on with this. Why is it her classroom? And, you know, there's so much mystery surrounding this, of course, and chaos and disorder, as you'd expect in a small town community like this one. Now, I've heard so many things going into this movie before it came out, and first off, I have to mention Barbarian. I don't believe I reviewed that on the channel. I thought it was good. I thought it was a very twisty and effective horror movie in a lot of ways, but I think that there were a lot of decisions that were made to subvert the audience's expectations that I didn't particularly care for, and I felt were a disservice to the characters in the film. So, naturally speaking, I thought that Cregger as a director was someone I really couldn't wait, though, to see his next movie, because I'm like, the pieces are obviously there for something truly magnificent. And then you started hearing all this talk. I mean, it was like a $38 million deal selling the script. Yet again, it's the whole package, but that's really kind of unheard of for a script like that. And then, of course, you heard that Jordan Peele literally fired his management team when they did not get the rights to this movie. And I think that really says a lot to the quality of this script. And seeing it unfold on screen, I can absolutely understand why everybody was just so up in arms about trying to get this film in their possession, because I mean, this is the definition of a sophomore triumph. This happens to be what I think is the best movie of the summer so far, and one of the best horror movies of the decade. There, I said it. I mean, this has been an exceptional year for horror already, between Sinners and Bring Her Back. I mean, there's so many movies that are just absolutely nailing it, and I think that this one is just, yet again, another one to add to that ever-growing number of horror films from this year that are just absolutely terrific. And this is an example of a filmmaker stepping up their game in every single way, whether it be the direction, the craft, the sprawling opus of a screenplay. I mean, there's so many things that Zach Cregger just perfects and fine-tunes in this film, and it all comes across in every single frame. I'd say almost like 5 minutes into the movie, I was already hooked with, you know, a certain sequence and a certain song choice. And by the way, the soundtrack to this movie is absolutely fantastic. Some great and extremely effective needle drops that felt like they were essential to the story. Sure, maybe a couple of them were a little on the nose. Slight criticism I have with the film, but nonetheless, I think that just the way these songs were utilized within the context of the story was just so engaging and intriguing. And yeah, I mean, that's just the first of many things I have great to say about Weapons. And yet again, I think as great as the cast is, and I will get into them, the true star of this movie is Cregger's screenplay, because another thing that people were saying before the movie came out, it's like a horror version of Magnolia, and that's a very high compliment, I'd say. I mean, that's one of my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movies. I just saw it in theaters again like last month, and it still holds up to today. And so I really think that that comparison, it isn't completely accurate to me, but I think it is quite apt in a lot of ways, the way that these stories kind of intermingle and interconnect throughout the screenplay, because he tells it in specific acts, you know, where it focuses on one specific character, which is a little bit different from Magnolia, and why I say that. But the thing that's so interesting about it is how, you know, each part of the movie further builds on each story that was presented beforehand. And either, you know, adds more detail to what was already established, or recontextualize certain events that you've seen in the movie and just fleshes it out in such a bold and brilliant way where it feels like all the pieces kind of come together. It's a very holistic vision, and I think it's constantly surprising you in all the best ways. And the other thing that is incredible about not only the script but also Cregger's direction is the tonal balance that he strikes between drama, horror, and comedy, because this movie is hysterical in a lot of moments, and it catches you off guard in like the craziest of spots where something really tense is happening or something really horrifying, and then you just burst out laughing. And it's not because, oh, it's obviously not supposed to be funny. No, like, it's meant to be funny, and it works. And somehow he's able to weave all these different tonal segments together, and it never feels jarring, which is crazy. I mean, that is the work of a true master director. I mean, I am willing to say that about this movie because it really is so masterfully put together from every single element of the film. Now, let's get into the cast as well, because I gotta shout out so many people. First off, I think the standout of this film is Julia Garner as Justine, because she is such a complicated character, and that's what I love about Weapons, is just how much it establishes characters so brilliantly, where you feel like there is so much being portrayed and that you really understand who these people are as individuals. And she is a very complicated and messy character, and it makes sense that the town in which she is in would like to place blame on that because of her personality, what happened, even though, you know, I won't get into spoilers, but yeah, there's a lot that a lot of these people are kind of in the dark about. And so I just love that none of these characters are ever really let off the hook. Some really are never let off the hook. And I'd say the same could be said for Josh Brolin, because he's a parent of one of the kids who disappears. And so, naturally, there's a lot that he's going through that the movie very cleverly tells you without having to, you know, spoon-feed you exposition. That's another really great thing about this movie. The exposition is so minimal in the sense that it gives you enough to piece together what's going on with these characters and their history, everything about it. It's just a magnificent writing like that. But I think Brolin really gets a lot to do, and I think one of his best film performances. Like, I heard that Pedro Pascal was supposed to be in this movie, yet again another one, but I really am happy that it ended up being Brolin, because I think he was perfect for this role that he plays in the film. And I also have to mention Alden Ehrenreich, who's really great in his section of the film and continues to impress me in almost everything that he's been doing. I absolutely loved his work in this. And also Austin Abrams, who gets some of the funniest moments of the entire film. I think the interplay between him and Alden Ehrenreich specifically is really some of the highlights of this film. And Benedict Wong has a very commendable presence that is very welcome in this movie and kind of grounds a lot of these other, you know, manic personalities wandering around this film. And I think what they do with him, I think he's the one character who could have gotten a little bit more character-wise, but he does serve his purpose in the story, and I think he is great with what he's given. Obviously, he's a very talented actor. I have to give a shout out to Carrie Christopher, who plays the one boy from her classroom that doesn't disappear, and I think he is given a lot to do, and one of the more impressive child performances I've seen in quite some time. And also, one who hasn't really been in the marketing at all, but Amy Madigan is unbelievable in this. Probably the other MVP of this film, because, my goodness, as soon as she appears on screen, you don't forget her. I will say that much and leave it at that. But this is one of the most stacked ensemble casts of the entire year, and I really think that they bring so much depth, emotion, pathos, everything to this movie that I think is necessary to execute a screenplay that is working and operating on such a high level like Weapons does. And it just still kind of amazes me how all of this comes together at the end in one of the most batshit third acts I have seen it in a long time. And another thing that was just so impressive to me is that this is a horror movie that for someone who doesn't easily get scared by jump scares or just horror in general, actually scared me and shocked me in a few moments, because this has to utilize what I think is some of the most effective jump scares I've ever seen in any movie. And there's this one moment in particular where Zach Cregger, he just lets the camera linger. And it's one of the most unsettling sequences I've ever seen in any film, where I was just kind of like back in my seat because I just really didn't know what was going to happen next. And that's the kind of horror that really gets to me and gets under my skin, when it's just a slow build and something is just coming towards you. I mean, that is more horrifying than anything else. I think, and I think the unease of the situation as well. And I really love the places where Cregger and cinematographer Larkin Sepul choose to place the camera. It's so immaculately blocked. The movement is so fluid, and I think it plays into, kind of not knowing exactly what is going to happen from frame to frame, and that's very, very impressive when building suspense in a horror film. You could say, in a lot of ways, it's very Hitchcockian in that sense, where he's just so masterful with his blocking here, and it shines through in every single second of this film. Now, it probably seems like that I am just throwing so much praise at this movie, which I, of course, am, but there are a couple of things that hold this back from being like a 9.5, we'll say, which I would say on rewatch it certainly could be, but I think that there's just some moments here that I think would have benefited from being fleshed out a bit more. Maybe perhaps a bit more context as to why the things are going on that are happening. But I also like the idea of what this movie is, essentially, and I've been thinking about that a lot ever since I've seen it. I think the framing device of this movie didn't necessarily work for me 100% when I first saw it, because it's kind of from the perspective of someone who's not even in the story. And I really, yet again, I've been thinking about it and I understand what Cregger was going for, but it just was kind of jarring when I first saw it, and it took me a few minutes to get in the movie. But like I said, it hooked me immediately afterwards. And just a couple moments here and there that are kind of odd or go a little bit underdeveloped, or I'm not really sure exactly what they mean. This could also alleviate itself upon rewatch. But for a movie that's 2 hours and 9 minutes, it felt a little bit longer than that. Granted, I was absolutely riveted the whole time, but I did feel the length, maybe just a tad bit. And also the fact that the ending is very abrupt, even though I think the third act is one of the best third acts of the entire year. That really gives me the rousing feeling that I want from a third act. It just ends very abruptly, but yet again, I appreciate what is being said with the ending. And so, yet again, this is probably one of the highest 9 out of 10s that I'm going to give. That's my score right there for Weapons, just because I think that this is such a terrific film. I mean, I legitimately think that, like I said, this could go up, but more than anything, I think that this is almost a shoo-in for my top 10 of the year, if this year isn't anything like last, which I don't think it will be. And that's not to say 2025 won't be an exceptional year for movies, but it started off kind of rough for the first 4 months until we got Sinners. And yet again, this along with Sinners, man, I really think that you can't find two better horror films in 2025, and really just two better films in general. So please rush out to see Weapons as soon as you can. I cannot recommend this movie enough, and I really want to figure out when I'm going back to see this, because I cannot wait to get my ass back in the theater to see this amazing feature from Zach Cregger all over again. But you guys let me know what you thought about Weapons down in the comments below. Did you love it as much as me, or did you not like it, and why? I mean, really, I can't really wrap my head around that, but love to hear all your thoughts and more. And please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie reviews like this. I'm going to bring you a fun one later this week. I'm not going to say what it is. A little collaboration I did with a good friend of mine, and so definitely definitely look forward to that. Going to have a good time, chatting about that one and so much more on the channel. So please, until the next video, you have yourselves a good one, and I'll talk to you later.